Alright guys, so as you can see, I'm here in the beautiful south of France. You can see perhaps a few of the boats in the view around me. I'd say there's about £3 billion worth of yachts and there's unbelievable boats here in the harbour. I'm taking a little break from my holiday to talk to you guys today about the biggest mistakes I've made in my business career so far, so that hopefully you guys at home don't have to make the same mistakes and it can save you a lot of time, effort and money. I wish I'd watched this video when I was a little bit younger. It would have been extremely helpful to me. So for those who don't know, I've now been operating my business Peak Health Systems since I was 18 years old. I'm now 27. I've done so very successfully. I've attained huge financial success, which has been awesome, but I made so many mistakes along the way. And the first of which being, personally, not understanding how to best utilize YouTube for growth. Now, in the space as a whole, we have the fitness community, the health community of influencers who do challenge-based videos, lifting-based videos, vlog-style content, etc. And we also, on the other side of things, have the make money side of the space as a whole, in which there's many sit-down and talk-based videos, similar to Alex Hormozi, Iman Gadzhi, etc., the likes of. For me personally, I had a massive difficulty for a period of, I'd say about 4 years, of lacking understanding of how I can best utilize either medium for my business, knowing that I was working specifically with 6- to 9-figure entrepreneurs. Therefore, at first, I was choosing to upload titles and videos which would rank well for SEO purposes, or extremely specific to my ideal client audience. What that then meant, however, was that the amount of individuals I could acquire in terms of eyeballs and therefore drive into my funnel was pretty limited. So in retrospect, if I was starting out from scratch, I'd be posting some very niche content in which I'm documenting my work with my clients like I do now on YouTube. And I'd also simultaneously be uploading content with the purpose of keeping YouTube as broad as possible and therefore filter prospects through my VSL or my Calendly application. So by no means am I implying you should be documenting or uploading challenge kind of fitness typical content based videos. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying, however, of course, is that you need to acquire a certain amount of eyeballs to actually whittle them down as prospects who are viable for your offer from a financial perspective. And that does require a significant pool of people, unless of course you can acquire a significant amount of word of mouth, referrals, etc. for your business. You need to leverage this as a primary traffic source. So if I was starting out from scratch, I'd very much focus on how I can best utilize YouTube for growth, knowing that it's the best platform for nurturing prospects. It definitely is at this exact moment in time in the space and the current content ecosystem. And that's how I'd be leveraging it best. And I very much encourage you guys out there, if you have a niched offer in which you're working with individuals of high net worth who have financial capacity to work with you and pay you multiple thousands for your service, like myself, I charge 15K for my first 12 weeks of work with my clients. I'd very much encourage you to think about YouTube as I've just suggested. Second mistake I made, and it's somewhat associated to the first, is not adapting to the social media landscape. So obviously we saw the huge influx of and popularity of short form content in around COVID times, 2020 onwards. I personally didn't adapt very well to that because I felt it to be disingenuous with myself as a character and personality. I wasn't consuming short form content, therefore I didn't want to produce it. I felt like it was terrible for my cognitive state, just doom scrolling the entire time, and therefore I perceived the reactions to be very similar from my ideal clients, and therefore I didn't produce it because, again, I just didn't enjoy producing it and didn't want to do so. In retrospect, I understand my thought process there, but I do think it was foolish and short-sighted and somewhat stubborn because, of course, short-form content provided us with huge opportunity, anyone in the space, to acquire mass eyeballs in a very short period of time. And therefore, I wish I had prioritized better getting an understanding of how I can best leverage short-form content to acquire eyeballs and attention for my business, as opposed to being so stubborn about it and resistant to acknowledging its use case, which unfortunately I was. And that's something which I do regret, and therefore I do wish I had adjusted to earlier. And yes, I do feel like there was an element of me personally being frustrated by the fact that content medium was popping off so much, because I didn't like that content medium, but I should have proceeded with it anyway. I shouldn't have been so stubborn about it, so egotistical. And there's so many other components of my work that I really thoroughly enjoy, that had I had to take care of one priority and one task, like uploading short form content, even though I didn't enjoy it, knowing that I enjoy everything else, it wouldn't have been an issue. So I should have just bit the pill there and kind of swallowed my pride in that regard, or at least just acknowledged its importance and therefore proceeded with it. Okay, mistake number 3, and I'm gonna have to switch you guys around quickly because my arm is hurting. Okay, mistake number 3 would certainly be partnering with the wrong people as business partners. So I've now done this, unfortunately, I've now made this mistake, I'd say at least twice, potentially 3 times, depends on how I kind of refer to the previous relationship I had there. But my most recent business partner, I decided to go 50-50 with. Now, for a little bit of context, he was actually a former mentee of mine, who I worked with in 2021, 2022, and I helped him scale to about 30, 40K a month and above from scratch with his fitness coaching business, his health coaching business. His previous offer was a low ticket offer. He was charging a couple hundred euros per month per client he was working with, and I encouraged him, of course, to adopt a high ticket model, and he scaled very quickly. I thought there was alignment there in terms of our personalities and how that would work. And I do think I somewhat rushed into that relationship because I perceived him to be a very systems-oriented individual. I'm not. I'm much more of a creative person and also a people person. Therefore, I deliver all my work to my clients in a personal manner, and I very much enjoy creating content and continuing to further educate myself and be the best coach I possibly can be. I thought it'd be a great fit for us to work together, given that he's more systems-oriented, and therefore I thought he could take care of the paid side of things in terms of traffic acquisition and systems in the back end of the business, team management, hiring, etc. Unfortunately, that individual was extremely obsessed with systems to the detriment of our productivity. There'd be multiple calls per day pertaining towards documentation processes, systems updates, management of people. It was just unbelievably excessive. And therefore, I started to resent the business as a whole, and of course, then encouraged us to split ways, part ways. But the other variable of that is as well, if you are working with an individual with a partner like that, of course you need to do your due diligence as it pertains to how they choose to operate. This individual prioritizing the wrong things was a massive flaw, for sure, and I should have been more cognizant of that from early on, and therefore had more of a kind of period in which I was assessing whether or not it was credible for us to work together or viable. I should have been more diligent in that regard. But also, you must be aware of their financial situation as well. Sorry guys, as I'm recording this, I'm seeing people jump on that boat there, and that's 300,000 per week. I looked it up earlier today. It's absolutely obscene. The amount of money here is just mental. It's £3 billion worth of yachts in this one harbour. Anyway, as I was saying, you should scrutinise the partner's financial position also. What I mean by that specifically is, if you're aware of the fact that they have an abundance of cash, it gives you guys both an opportunity to have a period of time which you work together and determine if it is viable for you to continue to do so. If the individual, however, is short of cash, and they're in a more financially constrained position, they will want to make money very quickly, and therefore they'll be somewhat emotional about certain decisions, etc. And that's a terrible position to put yourself in. So you never ever partner with those people, unless of course you're both starting from scratch and you both have a shared position. I wasn't in that position. I'd banked a lot of money. I'd done very well over the course of my career since I was 18, and that individual wasn't in the same situation, and I believe they were, and they weren't. So that's also another thing to be aware of also. Okay, fourth mistake, which I'm acknowledging now in retrospect, was my resistance to, or my conflict with, sharing lifestyle. So I by no means live extreme lifestyle or have things to flex per se in terms of cars, boats, party lifestyle, etc. I live very much within my means, but I make very good money. So the place I live in right now is 3.5k a month to live in. It's a 3-bedroom house with a lovely garden just outside Wimbledon. I'm able to take trips like this, which is really cool as well. And yeah, I've had pretty cool life experiences so far, but I've been very hesitant to share these things publicly because I don't want to do so. I've never wanted to do so. I wanted to keep my private life private, my business life public. That was always my previous thought process. However, in retrospect, I think it's very important to document things about your personal life if you are building a personal brand in order for individuals to resonate with you. Otherwise, you look like an abnormal human. They have no understanding of who you are truly, and therefore they can't necessarily trust you truly either. I think it's very important that you showcase these things if you are open to doing so. And obviously certain things you shouldn't showcase, for example relationships, etc. But other things definitely speak about and document as well, because there's no harm in doing so. And it also enables people to better resonate with you, in some capacity look up to you as well, or learn from your mistakes, or see whether or not they align with your lifestyle choices. So again, I by no means party, flash cash, spend excessively at all, but I do get to take trips like this, and I do get to live a cool lifestyle which I'm very happy with and I find great peace and content with, without having to spend thousands of thousands per month, right? I just don't deem it to be necessary to do so, and I wasn't raised that way. So I definitely had conflicting views on sharing my lifestyle publicly, and certain things that I thought were cool in my life publicly. And I wish I had better tackled that earlier, because again, having reviewed the success of other individuals in the space, those who do choose to showcase lifestyle and show the behind the scenes of their lives, whether it be flexing things or just simply speaking to camera in a very natural way, authentic way, documenting their lives, they have more success due to their better audience resonance. So that's another thing to also discuss, and that also applies to individuals in the health space. Most people in the health space authorities are perceived as somewhat robotic, and most individuals, at least clients of mine that I've spoken to, who I built good relationships with, said they have difficulty resonating with them because there's no human component. They're so robotic and militant in their lifestyle choices as it pertains to health that they, as an audience, can't resonate with them. So that's also another thing to address and also appreciate as well. Okay, moving on to now my fifth mistake, trying to make things too complex in my business. Now, what I mean by that is actually extremely simple. If we look at the business landscape as a whole right now, individuals who are leveraging and best making the use case of simple systems for acquisition, aka organic content, then compounded by the use of retargeting in some capacity, driving straight through to VSL, booking in a call if it's a high ticket product, or for example driving them directly through to a checkout page on about page on school for a low ticket monthly recurring product, they're having huge success. So if we take Nick Sariev as an example, he runs an AI product on school, a mentorship, and he's doing about 330k per month. He's not building out a VSL, there's no complex webinar associated to his product. He uploads content organically on Instagram and YouTube, drives traffic, and a lot of it's long form content like this without much editing at all, drives traffic directly to an about page in school and converts. His conversion percentage, I believe, was like 3%. Due to the number of individuals that watch his content, that makes him about 330k per month recurring. That's an extremely simple business model. He uploads content on 2 platforms, drives them through to an about page on school, and converts on a monthly recurring basis. Whereas I previously tried to build out as a byproduct of consuming content from individuals who were extreme marketers, very complex funnels, nurturing sequences, etc. And there's just no need to do so. If you have an offer that resonates and you have enough eyeballs on that offer, and you qualify effectively by communicating who it is you're wanting to work with and of course the financial prerequisites to work with you, you'll be in a good position to convert. There's no need to have such complex systems in place to make money in this space. And that goes for anyone wanting to make anywhere from 10k a month up and above. It's very realistic to expect huge financial success if you have those things in alignment: traffic, perfect offer, and a simple sales process. And of course, delivery of your service has to be impeccable as well. Very important thing to note, which unfortunately a lot of individuals in the make money space as gurus forget. Okay, moving on to my next mistake, not self-promoting aggressively enough. I have huge faith and confidence in my ability to serve the clients I work with, hence the testimonials that I get being so awesome. But I had difficulty being self-promoting in some capacity. And I think that's due to the fact that I didn't want to come across as in any capacity egotistical, nor did I want to... Yeah, it was an interesting one actually. Yeah, maybe the egotistical component was a key component, but truthfully, more than anything, it was just not adopting the right approach on socials for a long enough period of time. That's just me being really honest. There was certain things that I did which built the foundation of my business, which I didn't need to modify and change, like what I had on YouTube in terms of social media presence. That was cool. But again, I wasn't self-promotional enough, and that's because I didn't adopt the changes that were made to the social media landscape, unfortunately, and I should have done so at an earlier stage and an earlier age in my career for sure. Okay, third last mistake, not understanding the constraints of my business model enough. So again, for context, I charge 15k for my first 12 weeks of my service. And I've been delivering that service on my own, so therefore acquisition is done on myself. I take all sales calls, I don't need to pay a sales team, and delivery is done by myself. When I've wanted to further facilitate growth and scale, I personally perceive myself to be the bottleneck of this model, and therefore I chose to hire support coaches who would facilitate all delivery to the client directly, and also at times salespeople, and in other instances also chief marketing officers who would then lead the strategy facilitating further growth beyond what I was doing organically. Now, did I need any of that to facilitate growth above 100k per month? No. Have I done over 100k per month as a one-man team, extremely profitable with barely any costs associated apart from software costs like Calendly, etc.? Yeah, absolutely, very frequently. Do I want a business in which I have a huge number of team members working with me, whom I have to pay on a monthly basis and have to monitor their performance? Do I want to hire an office, rent an office, accrue a team of 10, 20, 30, 40 people? No, I don't. I actually don't have any passion for doing so. I want to run a very lean business, extremely lean business, scaled to about $250,000, 300k per month, which is very realistic with the next systems I have in place and steps I have in place to facilitate that growth based on where I'm at financially now, and not have to manage people, because I resent doing so. I'm not a people managing person. I like having and operating my own business, having my own thought processes determining my next steps, and also I like taking care of and responsibility for delivering to my clients. And I'm also enabled to do so because of the price I charge for my service, 15k for the first 12 weeks, and my LTV on average per client now is 25k GBP. So they work with me for another 2 months beyond the 12 weeks typically, so it's about 5 months typically with those clients, and they come back after about a year or so in most instances as well, because they need further help and further adjustments, which is great. And I delivered in the initial promise with them, and therefore they come back. Due to that model, and due to, of course, the significant revenue I derive from each client, I don't need to hire team members to further scale. I simply need to acquire more clients, because I'm not constrained to working with 20, 30 people. It's actually very easy to deliver on my end based on my operational systems right now. Because again, I host a one-to-one call on a weekly basis with all clients. I speak to them on a daily basis. Therefore, I can manage 20 to 30 people pretty easily. And that's a lot of money when you break that down. Of course it is. It's a huge amount of money based on my offer and how much I charge. So yeah, I didn't need to adopt a model which was unnecessary and something which I didn't actually resonate with on a personal level, and I made the mistake of trying to do so too many times, and that was based on my ego. I saw friends of mine, competitors of mine, etc., in different spaces, not even necessarily in the same space, choosing to adopt the approach where they wanted to build a significant team. They be the head of operations, so to speak, and CEO, and then they, of course, delegate accordingly. I don't want to do that. I have no desire to do so. I can operate a business that scales to arguably way above 300k per month as a one-man band, very much so. And again, if you want to see proof of that, even the low-ticket model, just look at Nick Sariev. I operate a high-ticket model, therefore it's very realistic to expect, provided, of course, I take care of the right actions to facilitate growth. But if you want to see a low-ticket individual do that, look at Nick Sariev. He did it perfectly. And that also comes back with understanding yourself as an individual, as a business owner, and knowing what you actually want from business. My ego got associated with wanting to build a huge business worth of, in terms of team members and numbers of people working for me, and that's just an ego thing. There's no benefit in me doing so. If anything, costs would have accrued significantly. I'd be more stressed due to having to manage individuals. And with this model, due to the current ecosystem in business, of course, of creating content and monetizing those individuals, you don't need to build a massive team to have huge success, and you can live life on your own terms. So gain clarity as early as you can do on what you want in life, and don't adopt the approach that other individuals are because they're doing so. It's a foolish thing to do, and you're doing so in a numb manner. You're not thinking about yourself. Okay, penultimate mistake, not investing in mentors whose lifestyle I wanted to replicate. So I made the mistake for sure in the first, I'd say 5 or 6 years of my career, and of course I'm now nearly 10 years in, of investing in individuals whose lifestyle I didn't want to embody, whose, I suppose, objective in life really was to hustle and work extremely hard, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And yeah, when you're first starting, that is required to achieve success, absolutely. But then there's also individuals who by no means work that hard in terms of hours, operate more efficiently and proficiently and productively, and as a byproduct of that obtain huge financial success without having to, of course, allocate their entire lives to their business. There's other things in life that I enjoy. I enjoy my sports, my tennis, my paddle, my training. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy spending time with my loved ones as well. My dogs, walking around in nature, learning, educating myself. I don't want to be sat down at a desk for 12 hours per day, hustling. And nor do I need to be to attain the financial success that I strive to attain and have attained thus far in my career. Of course, the levels that I want to ascend to are different, and of course require more efficiency in many regards. But does that mean that I have to spend 12 hours per day behind a desk 6 days per week? No, I've done so for, I'd say, about 4 years of my career at different periods of time, depending on what seasons of life I'm in. And every time I've done so, I found myself feeling extremely unhappy and actually not particularly productive nor creative. And that's, of course, an impediment to my business. And the period of time which I really did that was when Alex Hormozi really started to pop off. And therefore, I wanted to embody everything he was communicating. And I did so for about a period of a year, and yeah, I was just extremely unhappy, and I wasn't making more money than I had been previously either. I was making about the same. It's made no sense to me at all. And that's due to a few mistakes in terms of, again, partners that I started working with, team members I hired, etc., and not knowing myself as an individual. But also it meant that I can no longer determine or distinguish between what was a variable that was a work task that was contributing towards my growth or that wasn't. I was no longer efficient in that regard. I was working for the sake of working because I believed that was the variable that needed to move the needle forward, and it didn't. So massive mistake there. Don't make that mistake. It's an absolutely foolish one. And of course be very diligent as it comes to, or when it pertains to, tracking which variables and which actions contribute towards your growth in the most efficient and streamlined manner. Extremely important task, something which individuals don't speak about or acknowledge enough because they adopt the hustle bro culture. Do not do it for the sake of doing it, but of course if that makes you happy, that's fine, that's cool. Okay, and final mistake was I didn't recreate the vision of the life that I wanted to achieve beyond the age of 20 or so. So from the ages of 16 to 18, when I was in sixth form at school, I hated studying. I hated academics. I saw no benefit in proceeding through the conventional school system and going to university or anything like this, like my friends were doing so and everyone around me was doing. I saw no benefit in doing so and didn't want to do it. And I had absolute clarity as it pertains to what I wanted from life. From 16 onwards, I wanted to be in central London. I wanted to be operating my fitness and health coaching business in an online capacity, living a life of true freedom on my own terms, and helping people. That's what I wanted. I wanted to live in a specific building called Embassy Gardens in London, and the reason why I knew I wanted to live in that building was because I saw YouTubers whose content I was consuming live in that building, Casper Lee, etc., the likes of, if you guys are aware of those old school influencers in the UK. And I wanted to leave the seaside town that I was brought up in. I wanted to come into the city, I wanted to be part of the city, the kind of energy it brought, and really leverage that. And I had absolute clarity on it, and by the age of 20 I'd achieved that already. I was doing over 30k per month, I was living in my dream apartment on my own, I had absolute freedom and control of my life in every capacity, and yeah, it felt unbelievably good. But beyond that time period, my perception of what I wanted from life became somewhat skewed, and I allowed it to be somewhat derailed by the influence of other individuals. And what I mean by that was the individuals that I started to associate myself with, and in terms of clients, friends, etc., we all started to accrue money from a very early age. Some of them were excessive in their spending and their lifestyle choices, and their perception of what they wanted from life and what they enjoyed was very different to mine. I like being on the beach, I like playing sports, I like traveling, new experiences, trying new foods, things like this, hanging out socially with my friends, not necessarily clubbing, spending excess money for no reason. I don't enjoy that, actually. I find no benefit from doing so. And I allowed myself to kind of fall victim to that for a period of time, which wasn't particularly positive. And as a byproduct of that, I felt very misaligned with where I was in life. I didn't really necessarily understand or truly understand myself anymore and what I wanted from life, and therefore couldn't optimize for it, which is alarming for sure, because it means that all the actions you're taking care of on a daily and weekly basis are no longer necessarily contributing towards the life you want, because you don't know what life it is you want. So yeah, from 16 to 18 I had crystal clear clarity on that. From 22 onwards I kind of lost sight of that. I'm now 27 and I now have absolute clarity on it once again. And that, I think that's also a very natural thing. I think in your 20s you're trying to identify what you want from life, who you want to be, etc., what makes you happy. And that was also compounded by, again, the death of my dad, lockdowns, loads of different stuff in my life that happened on a personal level which contributed to that unknown for sure. But yeah, gaining clarity on that is extremely important, because then you optimize for the right things. And as a byproduct of that, you can be much more efficient and effective in attaining those things and that life, and you will subsequently be much more happy very quickly. So gaining clarity on that and not walking through life in a blind manner is extremely important, something which I wish I had done a little bit earlier. Although I did so from 16 onwards, I wish I'd reiterated that process or recompleted that process again from, let's say, 24 onwards. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Just took a moment out of my holiday to speak to you guys on camera here today. And if of course you want to work with me in a one-to-one manner to help you grow and scale, grow and scale your fitness and health coaching business, of course you have the opportunity to do so by clicking the link in the description, which takes you through to my Peak Business System school, in which I work with you in a one-to-one capacity to help you start, grow and scale in as efficient a manner as possible. Check it out. If you have any questions about that, drop me a message either on school or via DM on Instagram. And until then guys, I shall catch you in the next one. Enjoy.